were not their tools, were sky, stone, and heart. The explosion ripped through Hearthrift Gorge, a deafening roar that drowned out the grinding hum of the Kalium rigs. Red sand sprayed like blood across the jagged cliffs as Kalia Vren sprinted through the chaos, her boots pounding the cracked earth. In her gloved hands, she clutched a glowing shard of Kalium, its eerie green light pulsing like a heartbeat. It was her lifeline, her brother Torin's lifeline, and she'd stolen it from the Skyhunters' stash. Above, the crimson sky churned with dust, a permanent shroud over Kalith 9, but the real threat loomed closer, the whine of ion engines as a sleek skiff descended from a hovering fortress. Varkas Trace's voice boomed through the static of a loudspeaker cold and sharp as a blade. "Kill her! Bring me that stone!" Kalia's breath burned in her lungs, the acrid stench of burnt metal and Kalium dust stinging her nose. She darted past a crowd of ragged Underkin, their hollow eyes watching in silence. No one dared help her, not against the Skyhunters. Her copper-streaked hair whipped across her face. But she didn't slow. Torin's dying. I can't fail him now. The thought clawed at her mind, raw and relentless. She'd seen him that morning, his frail body shivering in their cave, his white hair plastered with sweat. He needed this shard, or he'd be gone by dawn. Boots thundered behind her. She risked a glance. 3 Skyhunter grunts in gleaming white armor, plasma rifles raised. A bolt seared past her ear, sizzling into the sand with a sharp crack. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Then, out of nowhere, the sky split open. A jagged streak of fire tore through the dust. A ship, battered and spitting sparks, hurtling down like a meteor. It crashed into the grunts with a bone-rattling boom, metal screeching as it skidded across the gorge. Kalia stumbled, shielding her eyes from the blast. The ship's hatch hissed open. A man stepped out, tall and lean, his black hair a tangled mess beneath a scarred face. He held a plasma pistol that glowed a vicious blue, and his voice cut through the chaos like a whip. "Run or die," he barked, firing a shot that melted a grunt's helmet into slag. The Kalium's light danced across Kalia's wide green eyes as she froze, caught between the stranger and the skiff closing in overhead. Varkas's skiff hovered low, its shadow swallowing the gorge, his silhouette stark against the fortress's white glow. His gaze locked on her. Too long, too strange. Like he saw something more than a thief. Who the hell is this guy? Kalia's mind raced. She didn't trust him. Trust got you killed on Kalith 9. But the skiff's turrets whirred to life, and she had no choice. She bolted toward the stranger, sand crunching underfoot, the shard's heat seeping through her gloves. Another explosion rocked the ground as the man fired again, covering her escape. "Move it, kid," he yelled, his tone dry despite the madness. "I'm not dying for your rock." She ducked behind a rusted rig, chest heaving. The air buzzed with static, the skiff's engines a low growl that vibrated in her bones. He's not Skyhunter, not Underkin either. Her eyes narrowed at the stranger's ship. Too small, too worn for a warlord's fleet. A mystery box, dropped right into her mess. She gripped the Kalium tighter. Torin needs this. I don't care who he is. Above, Varkas leaned over the skiff's edge, his white armor glinting like a cold star. "You can't run forever, girl," he called, his voice eerily calm. Then, a faint smirk tugged at his lips, barely there, but enough to send a chill down Kalia's spine. What's he playing at? Before she could think, the stranger grabbed her arm, yanking her toward a narrow crevice in the cliff. "Time's up," he muttered, shoving her ahead. The skiff's turrets fired, a volley of plasma bolts scorching the sand where they'd stood. Kalia stumbled into the shadows, the Kalium's glow lighting her path. The stranger followed, his pistol still humming. Behind them, the gorge trembled under Varkas's wrath. But his words lingered in the air, taunting, heavy with secrets she couldn't yet grasp. Who was this man who'd saved her? And why did Varkas look at her like she was more than just prey? The answers were out there. Buried deep, she'd find them, for Torin. Kalia stumbled into the crevice, the Kalium shard casting a faint green glow across the jagged walls. Her boots scraped against loose stone, the sound sharp in the tight space. She pressed her back to the cold rock, chest heaving, the shard's warmth pulsing through her gloves. Outside, the Hearthrift Gorge roared with chaos. Plasma bolts cracked against the cliffs, and the skiff's engines snarled like a beast on the hunt. The stranger slid in beside her, his plasma pistol still humming, its blue light flickering in the dark. Sweat beaded on his scarred brow, but his voice stayed steady. "Name's Elias. You're welcome, by the way." She shot him a glare, her green eyes sharp as Kalium. "I didn't ask for your help." Her words came fast, clipped with distrust. On Calith 9, favors always had a price. She adjusted the shard in her grip, its edges biting into her palm. "Torrens counting on me." Her mind flashed to him. 16, frail as a ghost, his white hair plastered to his skull in their damp cave. He'd been coughing blood that morning. His breath shallow. This shard could power the breather rig she'd scavenged. Without it, he'd fade before the red sky lightened. Elias leaned closer, his breath warm against the chill. "You're running with stolen tech from the Skyhunters. That's a death wish, kid." His tone carried a dry edge, almost amused. Kalia bristled, but he wasn't wrong. The Skyhunters ruled from their floating fortresses, hulks of white metal powered by Kalium reactors. They refined the mineral into energy and biofluid, the only thing keeping life alive on this dust-choked rock. 300 years ago, the Galactic Accord had mined Calith 9 dry, then ditched it after the Underkin blew the main vein in rebellion. Now, the Underkin scraped by in caves, while the Skyhunters hoarded what was left. She traced a finger over the stone wall, her habit kicking in. With a shard of flint from her pocket, she scratched a quick sketch. Torrens' thin face, eyes closed. It steadied her nerves, the rasp of stone a quiet comfort. "My brother's dying," she said, softer now. "This shard's all he's got." Elias watched her work, his scarred face unreadable. Then he chuckled, a low rumble. "You're one of those rock carvers, huh?" "Figures." Before she could snap back, a tremor shook the crevice. Dust rained down, coating her tongue with a bitter tang. She froze, listening. The skiff was circling, its engines a menacing drone. Farkas won't quit. Her mind replayed his smirk. Too knowing, too personal. What did he see in her, in a shallow cave? Torren Vren curled against a damp wall. His lungs rattled with each breath, the air thick with Kalium dust. The breather rig beside him sputtered, its last charge fading. He clutched a chipped stone, his fingers trembling as he scratched a jagged line. A dream he'd had, a glowing core, deep underground. The Kalium dust in the air shimmered faintly. Green flecks dancing like fireflies. "It's calling me," he thought, his mind foggy. He didn't know how he knew. But the mineral felt alive, humming in his bones. Back in the crevice, Elias holstered his pistol, the glow fading. "That shard's not just a battery," he said, voice low. "I need it to find the core, a motherlode of Kalium. Enough to save my people." He paused, eyes distant. "Earth's colonies are choking. 6 months, and they're gone." Kalia studied him, her flint hovering mid-scratch. "Earth? Another Accord lie, maybe." But his tone held a weight she couldn't ignore. The skiff's drone grew louder, a shadow sweeping over the crevice's mouth. Kalia tensed, her carving unfinished. Elias grabbed her arm, pulling her deeper into the dark. "We're not done running," he muttered. She yanked free but followed, the shard's light guiding them. Torren's face lingered in her mind, etched in stone and memory. She'd get back to him. But first she had to survive. And figure out why this stranger's words stirred something she couldn't name. The crevice swallowed them, its walls narrowing until Kalia's shoulders brushed cold stone. The Kalium shard glowed brighter in her hands, casting jagged shadows that danced like specters. Her breath fogged in the chill, each exhale a quiet rasp against the distant growl of the skiff outside. Elias moved ahead, his boots scuffing the gravel, his scarred silhouette sharp against the green light. The air smelled of damp earth and faint metal, a tomb's perfume. Kalia's fingers tightened around the shard, its heat a lifeline in the dark. Torren's waiting. "I can't stop now." Elias paused, turning to face her. His pistol hung at his side, its hum silenced. "That shard's more than a breather fix," he said, voice low and steady. "It's a key to the core, a Kalium mother lode buried deep, enough to save millions." He leaned against the wall, eyes glinting with something heavy. "Earth's colonies are dying. Air's poison, bunkers failing. 6 months, and they're dust." His words hit like a punch, raw and unpolished. Kalia's flint hovered over the stone, mid-scratch. "Earth, another Accord fairy tale." But the strain in his voice wasn't fake. She studied him, her green eyes narrowing. "You're Accord blood, aren't you?" Her tone bit, sharp with suspicion. The galactic Accord had bled Kalith 9 dry, then left it to rot. Elias smirked, a crooked twist of his lips. "Half-breed, maybe. They didn't like my pedigree." He tapped the scar on his cheek, a jagged line from some old fight. "Point is, I've seen the bunkers. Kids gasping, parents praying. I ran once. Not again." A faint tremor rippled through the crevice, dust sifting down like ash. Kalia steadied herself, the shard pulsing faster in her grip. She glanced at it, its green glow flickered, then flared, brighter than before. "What the hell?" She held it up, and the light softened, almost responding. Elias's smirk faded. "That's new," he muttered, stepping closer. "You some kind of Kalium whisperer?" "Shut up," she snapped, but her pulse quickened. The shard felt alive, humming against her skin. Torrin said it called to him too. Her mind flickered to his dream. Green light, a core underground. Was this more than a power source? She shoved the thought down. No time for riddles. The skiff's drone swelled, a menacing buzz that shook the walls. Elias grabbed her wrist, his grip firm, but not rough. "They're closing in," he said, voice tight. "We move, or we're slag." Kalia pulled free, her flint clattering to the ground. She didn't trust him, not yet, but the shard's glow urged her forward, a beacon in the dark. She followed him deeper, the crevice tightening around them. Varkas's shadow loomed out there. His strange smirk burned into her memory. Something was coming, something bigger than a chase, and she'd face it for Torrin's sake. The crevice widened into a cavern, its ceiling lost in shadow. Kalia's boots crunched on brittle stone, the sound echoing like a whisper in the vast dark. The Kalium shard glowed steady in her hands, bathing the walls in a soft green haze. Stalactites hung like jagged teeth, dripping with moisture that smelled faintly of rust. Her breath steadied, but her heart still thumped from the chase. Torrin's out there, waiting. She pushed the thought down, focusing on the path ahead. Elias walked beside her, his scarred face lit by the shard's eerie light. His pistol stayed holstered, but his hand hovered near it, ready. "Keep moving," he said, voice low and firm. "That skiff won't give up easy." He pointed ahead, where the cavern sloped downward, a tunnel carved by time or something older. Kalia nodded, her copper-streaked hair catching the glow. She felt the Kalium's hum in her bones, a pull she couldn't explain. "It's guiding me." Her fingers brushed the flint in her pocket, itching to carve Torrin's face again. But she resisted. No time for that now. The tunnel tightened, forcing them to duck under low overhangs. The air grew thick, heavy with the tang of mineral dust. Kalia's glove grazed the wall, and a shiver ran up her arm. She stopped, pressing her palm flat. The stone pulsed, faint, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. "You feel that?" she asked, her voice sharp with wonder. Elias frowned, touching the wall himself. "Nothing," he said, but his eyes lingered on her. "What's it telling you?" She closed her eyes, letting the sensation flood her. Green light, deep below. It was the same pull Torrin had mumbled about in his fevered sleep. "It's alive," she said, opening her eyes, like it knows where we're going. Elias raised an eyebrow, his smirk faint but real. "Alive, huh? You Underkin sure love your rocks." His tone teased, a spark of humor cutting through the tension. Kalia glared, but a tiny grin tugged at her lips. "Better than trusting Accord junk like you." He chuckled, a rough sound that echoed off the walls. Fair point. But this junk knows Skyhunter tech. He tapped his chest where a faint scar peeked from his collar. Their fortresses run on Kalium reactors, hot enough to melt steel, small enough to fit a skiff. They refine it into biofluid, keep the highborn breathing pretty. He paused, his smirk fading. Down here you just get the scraps. Kalia's grip tightened on the shard. Scraps Torrens dying for. She started walking again, the tunnel sloping steeper. The walls shimmered with veins of Kalium, thin threads glowing like trapped stars. Elias kept pace, his voice dropping. That shard's a beacon. If the core's real, it'll lead us there. But Varkis, he's not just after power, he's hiding something. His words hung heavy, a mystery box she couldn't open yet. A low rumble shook the tunnel, dust sifting from above. Kalia steadied herself, the shard flaring brighter. She glanced at Elias, his jaw tight. Skiffs scanning, he muttered. They'll blast this place if they have to? She nodded, her mind racing. Varkis saw something in me. What? The memory of his smirk gnawed at her, but she shoved it aside. She'd figure it out later. Ahead, the tunnel split. Two paths. One dark, one faintly lit by Kalium veins. Kalia pressed her hand to the wall again, feeling the pulse. It tugged her toward the lit path. A silent call. This way, she said, stepping forward. Elias followed, his hand brushing her shoulder for a moment. Steady, human. The cavern swallowed their footsteps, but the shard's glow burned brighter. A promise or a trap. Whatever waited below, she'd face it. For Torin, for answers. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, its walls shimmering with Kalium veins that pulsed like living threads. Kalia stepped forward, her boots sinking into soft, ashen sand. The air hung heavy, thick with a metallic tang that coated her throat. The shard in her hands flared, its green light washing over jagged stalagmites that gleamed like wet glass. A low hum vibrated through the stone, a sound she felt more than heard. It's stronger here. Her heart quickened, the pull tugging at her core. Elias trailed behind, his pistol drawn now, its blue glow a stark contrast to the cavern's eerie sheen. Stay sharp, he muttered, his voice tight. This place doesn't feel right. His eyes scanned the shadows, the scar on his cheek, catching the light. Kalia nodded, her flint slipping into her hand almost by instinct. She knelt, tracing a quick line in the sand, a curve for Torin's jaw, a hope to steady her nerves. The hum grew louder, a deep thrum that rattled her teeth. Then, they emerged. Figures stepped from the dark, their skin glowing faintly, like Kalium dust had fused with flesh. The Stoneborn, tall, lean, their eyes hollow pits of green fire. Ragged robes hung from their frames, woven from mineral threads that shimmered with each move. One raised a hand, its voice a rasp, like grinding rock. You trespass on sacred ground. The words echoed, sharp and cold, cutting through the hum. Kalia froze, the shard pulsing faster in her grip. They're real. Elias aimed his pistol, stance steady. We're just passing through, he said, his tone calm but edged. With steel, no trouble needed. The Stoneborn tilted its head, its gaze locking on Kalia. You carry the blood of the sky, it hissed, stepping closer. Different, marked. Her stomach twisted. Sky blood. She glanced at Elias, but he shook his head, clueless. The Stoneborn's words gnawed at her, a mystery she couldn't crack. She stood, flint still in hand. I don't know what you mean, she said, her voice firm despite the tremor in her chest. This shard's for my brother. Let us go. The Stoneborn circled, its movements fluid, unnatural. The core calls you, it rasped, but it is ours, forged by the Makers, twisted by their greed. Kalia's mind raced. Makers, Accord. Bastards maybe. She pressed the flint to a nearby stalagmite, carving a quick spiral. Her mother's old trick to calm a storm. The stone flared under her touch, a faint tube along the wall sparking to life with a soft hiss. The Stoneborn recoiled, its eyes narrowing. You wield their craft, it said, almost accusing. Elias lowered his pistol an inch, a grin tugging at his lips. Guess your rock trick's got some juice, huh? His quip broke the tension, and Kalia shot him a look, half glare, half smirk. But the Stoneborn lunged, faster than she'd expected, its hand clamping her wrist. Pain seared through her arm, the shard dropping to the sand with a dull thud. She yelped, kicking free, but more Stoneborn emerged, their glow filling the chamber. Elias fired, a plasma bolt sizzling past her ear. It struck a stalagmite, shattering it into glowing shards. Back off, he barked, pulling Kalia behind him. She snatched the Kalium shard, its light dimming as she clutched it close. The Stoneborn hissed, retreating slightly, but their leader raised a hand. The core is not yours to claim, it warned. The Makers return. You will see. Its words hung like a curse, heavy with secrets. A distant rumble shook the chamber, sand trickling from above. Kalia's pulse spiked. The skiff. Varkis was close, too close. Elias grabbed her arm, his grip urgent. We're out of time, he said, nodding toward a tunnel ahead. She hesitated, the Stoneborn's words echoing in her skull. Sky blood. Makers. What did they see in her? She followed Elias, the shard's glow flickering, her carving left unfinished in the sand. The hum deepened behind them, a promise of answers, or a trap waiting to spring. The cell was a hollow scar in the fortress's belly, its walls smooth and white, humming with the faint pulse of a Kalium reactor. Torin Vren sat slumped against the cold metal, his thin frame shivering under a tattered cloak. His white hair clung to his sweat-damp forehead, and each breath rattled in his chest like loose gravel. The air smelled sterile, sharp with ozone, a stark shift from the damp caves he knew. His fingers traced a chipped stone in his lap, scratching faint lines, a habit he'd picked from Kalia. She's out there. She'll come. The thought burned bright, keeping the dark at bay. A shadow loomed through the cell's barred window. Varkis Drace stepped into view, his white armor gleaming under the harsh light. His gaunt face was all angles, eyes gray and piercing like storm clouds over the red sky. He carried no weapon, didn't need to. Power clung to him like the dust. Outside. Torin tensed, his stone slipping slightly. Varkis tilted his head, studying him. You're the brother, he said, voice smooth and low, almost curious. The one she risked everything for. Torin's jaw tightened. Let me go, he rasped, his words weak but defiant. Kalia's got nothing you want. Varkis's lips twitched, not quite a smirk, but close. He crouched, leveling his gaze with Torin's. Oh, she's got plenty, he said, his tone soft, layered with something Torin couldn't place. That shard she stole, it's more than a trinket. You feel it too, don't you? His eyes flicked to the stone in Torin's hand, then back to his face. Torin's heart skipped. He knows? The Kalium dust in the air shimmered faintly, green flecks pulsing faster near him. He'd felt it since the fever started. A hum in his bones, a call from somewhere deep. His dreams showed it, a glowing core, alive and waiting. He clutched the stone tighter, hiding the tremble in his fingers. I don't know what you're talking about, he lied, his voice steady despite the cough clawing at his throat. Varkis leaned closer, the reactor's hum sinking with his words. Don't play dumb, boy. The oath runs in your blood. His gaze softened for a split second, regret maybe, then hardened again. Your sister's out there, stirring things she doesn't understand. The core's waking. And when it does, he trailed off, standing abruptly. Torin frowned, the chipped stone digging into his palm. The oath? Kalia had whispered about it, their mother's ritual, a pact with the stone. But Varkis, knowing it, felt wrong, personal. A faint rumble shook the cell, the fortress trembling under some distant blast. Varkis glanced up, his calm cracking. She's persistent, he muttered, almost to himself. He turned back to Torin, his voice dropping low. Tell me about the oath. What did she teach you? Torin stared, defiance flaring. Nothing you'd get, he spat, then coughed, a wet hack that left him gasping. Marcus watched, unmoving, but his eyes flickered. Something human buried deep. The door hissed open behind him, a Skyhunter grunt stepping in. "Sir, the skiff's locked her signal," the grunt said, voice clipped. Marcus nodded, his gaze lingering on Torin. "Keep him alive," he ordered, turning to leave. "He's more than he seems." The door sealed shut, the hum swallowing the silence. Torin slumped back, his stone slipping to the floor. The Kalium dust flared brighter around him, a green pulse he couldn't ignore. "Kalia, hurry!" His scratched lines glowed faintly in the dark, a jagged core, a dream he couldn't shake. Vargas knew too much, and Torin had to warn her, before it was too late. The tunnel twisted deeper, its walls closing in like a clenched fist. Kalia's boots scraped against the uneven stone, the sound swallowed by a low, eerie hum that pulsed from below. The Kalium shard glowed fiercely in her hands, its green light painting the air with a shimmering haze. Her breath caught in her throat, sharp with the bite of mineral dust. "It's stronger now, closer." She felt it in her chest. A tug, a whisper, something ancient calling her name. Elias followed close, his scarred face tense, pistol drawn but quiet. The damp chill clung to them, a faint drip echoing in the dark. "We're getting somewhere," Elias said, his voice a steady anchor. "That hum, it's not natural." He brushed a hand along the wall, fingers tracing a thin vein of Kalium that pulsed faintly. Kalia nodded, a copper-streaked hair sticking to her sweat-damp neck. The Stoneborn's words gnawed at her. "Sky blood, marked." What did they see? She pulled the flint from her pocket, her fingers trembling slightly. "I need answers. For Torin." She stopped, pressing the shard to her chest. "I have to try something," she said, her tone firm but shaky. Elias raised an eyebrow, leaning against the wall. "What? More rock art?" His quip carried a dry edge, but his eyes softened, curious, not mocking. Kalia ignored him, kneeling on the gritty floor. She set the shard down, its glow flaring, and began the oath her mother had taught her. "Stone hears, stone keeps." Her voice was a whisper, a prayer. She pressed the flint to the ground, carving a spiral, her mother's mark. A wisp of smoke rose from the shard, sharp and bitter, curling into her lungs. Kalia's vision blurred, then snapped clear. She was 6 again, in a cave lit by a flickering lamp. Her mother knelt beside her, dark hair framing a tired face. "The oath binds us to the stone," her mother said, guiding Kalia's small hand to carve a spiral. "It's our strength, our secret. They'll come for it, Kalia. For you." Her voice cracked, eyes darting to the shadows. "He gave you up to save you." The memory shifted. Shouts, a white armored figure dragging her mother away. "Vargas." Kalia gasped, the tunnel rushing back. The smoke stung her eyes, tears mixing with dust. Elias crouched beside her, his hand hovering near her shoulder. "You okay?" he asked, voice low, steady. She wiped her face, the spiral glowing faintly in the stone. "Vargas," she choked out. "He's my father. He left me." The words tasted like ash, heavy with betrayal. Sky blood. That's what they meant. Elias's jaw tightened, but he didn't flinch. "Makes sense," he said, his tone even. "He's got a soft spot for you. Saw it in his eyes back there." He paused, then added, "I'm a cord trash too. Half-breed. Cast out. Didn't fit their shiny mold." He tapped the scar on his cheek, a grim smile flickering. "Family's messy, huh?" Kalia stared at him, the shard's hum syncing with her pulse. His honesty cut through her haze, a human thread in the chaos. A distant rumble shook the tunnel, pebbles clattering to the ground. Elias stood, pistol ready. "Skiff still hunting," he said, glancing up. "We're not safe yet." Kalia rose, clutching the shard, its light steady now. The memory burned in her skull, Vargas's face, her mother's warning. "They'll come for you." Who? The Accord, the Stoneborn. She didn't know, but the oath had unlocked something. Truth, power, danger. She met Elias's gaze, her voice hard. "Let's keep going." I need to face him. The tunnel stretched ahead, the hum growing louder, a promise of secrets deeper still. Kalia stepped forward, flint in one hand, shard in the other. Torin needed her, and now, so did she. The tunnel sloped sharply, its walls slick with moisture that glistened under the Kalium shard's green glow. Kalia's boots slipped on the damp stone, her breath fogging in the icy air. The hum grew louder, a deep thrum that vibrated through her chest, syncing with the shard's pulse. She clutched it tight, its warmth a steady anchor against the chill. Varkas, my father. The truth clawed at her mind, raw and jagged. But she pushed it down. Torin needed her focus. Answers could wait. Elias moved ahead, his pistol casting faint blue flickers, his scarred face set in a grim line. Almost there, he said, voice low but sure. That sound, it's the core. He pointed to a faint shimmer ahead, where the tunnel widened into shadow. Kalia nodded, her copper-streaked hair brushing her shoulders. The air thickened, heavy with a metallic tang that stung her nose. Her flint rested in her pocket, a quiet comfort she didn't dare use. Not yet. The Stoneborn's warning echoed in her skull. The core is ours. What did they guard? The tunnel opened into a cavern so vast it stole her breath. A massive sphere of Kalium loomed at its heart, suspended in a web of glowing tubes that snaked across the walls. The core pulsed, its surface swirling with green light, alive and restless. Ancient panels lined the chamber, their surfaces etched with symbols Kalia didn't know. Accord tech, maybe, or something older. A faint hiss filled the air, like steam escaping a cracked pipe. She stepped forward, sand crunching underfoot, the shard in her hand flaring bright as if greeting its kin. Holy hell, Elias breathed, his pistol lowering slightly. That's it. The motherlode. His eyes gleamed with awe, but his grip tightened, ready for trouble. Kalia's heart pounded. Torin could live forever with this. She knelt near a panel, her fingers brushing its edge. The shard's light flared. Again, and a tube sparked to life, glowing brighter. She pulled her flint out, instinct taking over, and carved a quick spiral into the sand. The panel hummed, a low note that rippled through the cavern, and a faint screen flickered on. Static, then darkness. Elias crouched beside her, his voice a whisper. You're waking it up, rock carver. His tone held a grin, a spark of light in the tension. Kalia smirked, despite herself, but her hands shook. Mother taught me this. The oath wasn't just memory. It was power. Before she could carve more, a shadow loomed at the cavern's edge. Varkas stepped in, his white armor stark against the green glow, his grey eyes locked on her. No skiff, no grunts, just him, alone. You shouldn't be here, he said, his voice smooth, almost soft. Not yet. He moved closer, boots silent on the sand, his presence heavy with unspoken weight. Kalia stood, shard in hand, her throat tight. You don't get to decide that, she snapped, her words sharp as flint. Not after what you did. Varkas's gaze flickered, pain maybe, but he didn't flinch. I saved you, he said, low and firm. From them. Elias raised his pistol, stepping between them. Back off, Trace, he growled, his stance solid. She's not your pawn. Varkas ignored him, his eyes on Kalia, searching. The core's not a prize, he said. It's a weapon, and they're coming for it. His words hung like a storm cloud, thick with warning. Kalia's pulse raced. The accord. The shard burned hotter in her grip, its hum rising to a wail. A tremor shook the cavern, dust raining from above. Varkas glanced up, his calm cracking. Too late, he muttered. The core pulsed faster, its light blinding. Kalia clutched her flint, the spiral in the sand glowing faintly. Whatever Varkas knew, whatever he'd hidden, it was waking now, and she was caught in its heart. The cavern trembled, a low groan rising from the stone as the core's green light flared brighter. Kalia stood firm, the Kalium shard burning hot in her hands, its hum a piercing wail that drilled into her skull. Sand sifted from the ceiling, dusting her copper-streaked hair with red ash. The air crackled with static, thick with the sharp sting of ozone. Varkas faced her, his white armor glowing faintly in the chaos, his grey eyes steady, but shadowed. Elias kept his pistol trained on him, his scarred face taut, ready to fire. The tension hung like a live wire, sparking between them. Before Kalia could speak, the shadows shifted. The Stoneborn emerged, their glowing forms stepping from the walls like ghosts born of Kalium. Their leader moved forward, its ragged robes trailing sand, its voice a grinding rasp. "You awaken what should sleep," it said, green eyes blazing. "The core is ours to guard." Kalia's grip tightened on the shard, her pulse racing. They're back. She glanced at Varkas, then Elias, caught between threats old and new. Elias adjusted his aim, his voice sharp. "Call off your pets, Drace," he snapped. "We're not here to fight." Varkas didn't flinch, his gaze still locked on Kalia. "They're not mine," he said, calm and low. "They're older than us all." The Stoneborn leader tilted its head, its glow pulsing in time with the core. "We were the Maker's hands," it rasped. "Scientists, forged into this by their greed. The core was our dream, until it broke us." Kalia's breath hitched. "Scientists? Accord experiments." Her mother's warning flashed through her mind. "They'll come for you." She stepped closer, the shard's wail softening in her grasp. "What do you mean, broke you?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. The Stoneborn's eyes narrowed, its tone heavy with memory. Kalium was power, air, life, terraforming. We shaped worlds. But the Accord pushed too far. We became this, bound to it, cursed by it. A faint rumble shook the cavern, the core's tubes sparking with green arcs. The Stoneborn pointed a glowing hand at it. "You. Stir the signal," it warned. "The Maker's here. They return." Kalia's stomach dropped. "The Accord's coming back." She glanced at Varkas, his face unreadable but tense. "They never left," he said, his voice cutting through the hum. "They've waited, watching. The core's their key to reclaim it all." Elias lowered his pistol slightly, his grin wry. "Great. More Accord bastards to deal with," he muttered, a dry spark in the gloom. Kalia shot him a look, but her mind raced. "Torrens tied to this. So am I." She lifted the shard, its light steady now. "I'm not here for your war," she said, facing the Stoneborn. "I need this for my brother." The leader's gaze softened, just a flicker. "Your blood sings with it," it said. "Sky and stone. You cannot escape." Varkas stepped forward, his voice firm. "She doesn't have to," he said, eyes on Kalia. "I'll stop them, for her." The words hit like a stone, heavy with a promise she didn't trust. Elias snorted, pistol back up. "Yeah, real noble," he quipped. "After you chased her down." Kalia's flint twitched in her pocket, itching to carve the truth from this mess. The core pulsed faster, a deafening roar building within it. The Stoneborn retreated a step, its voice a hiss. "The signal grows, too soon, Skychild." The cavern shook harder, cracks splitting the walls. Kalia clutched the shard, her resolve hardening. Varkas, the Stoneborn, the Accord, they all wanted something from her. But she'd fight for Torren first. The hum swallowed her thoughts, a prophecy unfolding, and she was its heart. The cavern pulsed with the core's green light, a living heartbeat that shook the air. Kalia stood firm, the Kalium shard glowing hot in her hands, its hum a steady roar in her ears. Sand crunched under her boots, the metallic tang of the air sharp against her tongue. Varkas faced her, his white armor stark against the shimmering walls, his grey eyes locked on hers with a weight she couldn't shake. Elias flanked her, pistol raised, his scarred face tight with distrust. The Stoneborn lingered at the edges, their glowing forms silent, watching. The tension coiled tight, ready to snap. Kalia's voice cut through the hum, sharp and raw. "You don't get to play savior now." She stepped closer, the shard's light flaring with her anger. "You left me, left her. Her mother's face flashed in her mind. Dark hair, tired eyes, dragged away by white-armored hands. Varkis's calm faltered, a crack in his steel mask. He raised a hand, slow, like he could push her words away. "I had no choice," he said, his tone low, heavy with something old. "The Accord wanted you, your blood. I gave you up to keep you free." Her chest tightened, the shard's heat searing her palms. "Free?" She laughed, a bitter sound that echoed off the walls. "Free to scrape by in caves, to watch Torin die." Her green eyes blazed, pinning him where he stood. Varkis's jaw clenched, but he didn't look away. "I sent her away," he said, voice softer now. "Your mother, she knew the oath, knew what you'd become. I thought she'd hide you better." Elias shifted, his pistol steady. "Real touching," he said, his voice dry as dust. "But you're still the bastard who hunted her down." His finger hovered over the trigger. A warning. Varkis ignored him, stepping closer to Kalia, his boots silent on the sand. "I hunted the shard," he said, eyes searching hers. "Not you. When I saw you in the gorge." He paused, a flicker of pain crossing his face. "I knew. I couldn't let them take you again." Kalia's breath caught again. Her flint burned in her pocket, begging to carve the truth from this tangle. "Who's them?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the storm inside. "The Accord, the Stoneborn?" Varkis's gaze darkened, his calm fraying. "The Accord," he said. "They bred you for this. Your blood, your tie to Kalium. Your mother defied them. I defied them." His words hung heavy, a confession laced with regret. The core pulsed louder, tubes sparking with green arcs that lit the cavern like a storm. Kalia's mind raced. "Bred me." The Stoneborn's words, sky and stone, slammed into place. She was a weapon, a key, forged by hands she'd never known. Her anger flared, but beneath it, a thread of pity stirred. "He's broken too." She shook her head, stepping back. "You don't get forgiveness," she said, voice hard. "Not yet." Varkis nodded, a slow, weary motion. "I don't ask for it," he said. "Just time to stop them." His eyes flicked to the core, then back to her. "You're more than their tool, Kalia. You're mine." The words hit like a stone, raw and real, and for a moment, she saw her mother in his gaze. Tired, fierce, human. A distant rumble shook the cavern, the walls trembling with a force beyond the core. Elias glanced up, his grin gone. "Skiffs. Not alone," he muttered, pistol still on Varkis. "Something bigger's coming." Kalia clutched the shard, its hum syncing with her pulse. Varkis didn't move, his offer hanging between them. Trust, fragile and untested. The core wailed. A call to war, and she knew. Whatever came next, she'd face it her way. For Torin, for herself. The cavern shuddered, a deep rumble rolling through the stone like a beast waking from sleep. Kalia gripped the Kalium shard, its green light flaring wild, casting jagged shadows across the core's pulsing surface. The air buzzed with static, sharp with the sting of burnt metal. Varkis stood before her, his white armor scuffed but unbowed, his gray eyes searching hers for something she wouldn't give. Elias kept his pistol steady, its blue glow a quiet threat. The Stoneborn lingered at the edges, their glowing forms, tense, silent witnesses to the storm brewing within. A louder roar tore through the cavern, the ceiling cracking with a sharp snap. Dust rained down, coating Kalia's tongue with a bitter grit. She glanced up, heart pounding. The skiff? No, bigger. Before she could speak, the far wall exploded inward, a blast of red sand and twisted metal flooding the chamber. A figure stumbled through the breach, small and frail, his white hair glowing in the chaos. Torin. His cloak hung in tatters, his thin hands clutching a jagged stone that pulsed green. Another shard. Torin. Kalia's voice broke, raw with relief. She lunged forward, but Elias grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "Wait," he hissed, pistol swinging toward the breach. Torin staggered, coughing hard, blood flecking his lips. Then he raised the shard, and the core answered. Its hum spiked, a piercing wail that shook the tubes lining the walls. Green light surged from his shard, arcing toward the core like lightning. The ground trembled, a low groan rising as cracks split the sand. Varkis's eyes widened, his calm shattering. "What the hell is he doing?" he barked, stepping toward Torin. The boy's gaze snapped up, fierce despite his frailty. "Getting out," Torin rasped, his voice a cracked whisper. He pressed the shard to his chest, and the core pulsed faster, its tubes sparking wildly. A distant screech echoed from above, metal tearing, engines failing. The fortress, Kalia's, breath caught. "He's breaking it." Elias let go of her, his grin flashing. "Kid's got guts," he said, a spark of admiration cutting through the chaos. Kalia bolted to Torin, sand crunching underfoot, and caught him as he stumbled. His skin burned hot, the shard's light flickering in his trembling hands. "I felt it," he whispered, eyes wide with awe. "It showed me how." She hugged him tight, the hum drowning her thoughts. "He's alive. He's here." The cavern rocked harder, a chunk of ceiling crashing down with a deafening boom. Varkis spun, shouting into a calm on his wrist. "Hold the line." His voice cracked, urgency bleeding through. Elias fired a plasma bolt at the sparking tubes, shattering one in a spray of green sparks. "We need to move," he yelled, pulling Kalia and Torin toward a side tunnel. She resisted, glancing back at Varkis. His eyes met hers, conflicted, almost pleading. "Torin's like me," she said, voice hard. "Your blood, your mess." Varkis flinched, a rare break in his steel. "I didn't know," he said, low and strained. "Not until now." The core wailed louder, its light blinding, and the cavern walls groaned under the strain. Torin coughed. Again weaker now, his shard dimming. Kalia's heart twisted. "He's burning out." She turned to Elias, resolve stealing her. "Get us out." Elias nodded, leading them into the tunnel, his pistol lighting the way. The core's hum chased them, a relentless call, and Varkis's shadow lingered behind, caught between duty and something deeper. Torin's weight dragged at her arm, his breath shallow. Above, the fortress screamed its death throes, a testament to his power. Kalia clutched her shard, its glow steady now. Whatever Torin had done, it changed everything. And the fight was far from over. The tunnel twisted tight, its walls slick with damp stone that gleamed under the Kalium shard's green glow. Kalia half-carried Torin, his frail body sagging against her, his breath a shallow wheeze in the cold air. The shard in her hand pulsed, faintly, its heat a lifeline against the chill. Elias led the way, his pistol's blue light cutting through the dark, his boots crunching on loose gravel. The core's wail faded behind them, replaced by a new sound. A deep, guttural roar from above, like the sky itself was tearing apart. Dust sifted down, stinging Kalia's eyes with a bitter tang. "Keep moving," Elias said, his voice sharp but steady. "That's no skiff." He glanced back, his scarred face tense, pistol ready. Kalia nodded, her copper-streaked hair plastered to her neck with sweat. Torin's weight dragged at her, but she held him close. "He's alive. That's enough." Her mind flickered to Varkis, his confession, his plea, but she shoved it aside. The roar grew louder, a shadow sweeping over the tunnel's mouth. A blast rocked the cavern behind them, a deafening boom that sent tremors through the stone. Kalia stumbled, catching Torin as he gasped. Through the dust, a massive shape descended, sleek, black, its hull etched with accord sigils. A warship, dwarfing the fortress's wreckage. Its engines growled, a low thrum that shook her bones. Red beams lanced from its turrets, scorching the sand where the core pulsed. The stoneborn scattered, their glowing forms darting into the shadows. Their rasping cries lost in the chaos. Varkis emerged from the tunnel's edge, his white armor streaked with soot, his gray eyes wide with something close to fear. "They're here," he shouted, voice cutting through the din. "The Accord." He moved toward Kalia, hands raised, no weapon, just intent. Elias spun, pistol aimed at his chest. "Stay back, Drace," he growled, finger tight on the trigger. "You don't call the shots." Kaylee's heart pounded, the shard flaring in her grip. "Torin needs out," she said, her voice hard, eyes flicking between them. "Not your war." Varkas stopped, his gaze softening on Torin's pale face. "He's my blood too," he said, low and firm. "I won't let them take him." But words hit her like a stone, raw and real. But trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. The Stoneborn leader stepped forward, its glowing form flickering in the warship's red glare. The signal called them. It rasped, voice heavy with warning. "The core is theirs again unless we stop it." Its eyes locked on Kalia, then Varkas. Sky and stone must stand. A turret fired, a beam searing the sand near them with a sharp crack. Kalia flinched, shielding Torin, his coughs weaker now. Elias lowered his pistol an inch, his grin wry. "Guess we're all screwed together," he said, a dry spark in the storm. Kalia glared at him, then at Varkas. "You want to help," she snapped. "Prove it." Varkas nodded, his calm returning, brittle but real. "I'll draw their fire," he said, pulling a comm from his belt. "Get the boy to safety." He turned to the Stoneborn. "You know this place. Lead them." The leader hesitated, then rasped, "For the core." It gestured to a side tunnel, its glow guiding the way. Kalia met Varkas's eyes, conflicted, human, and gave a curt nod. "Don't die yet," she said, voice steady. He smirked faintly, a ghost of something softer, then ran toward the warship, shouting into his comm. Beams chased him, lighting the cavern in red. Elias grabbed Torin's other arm, helping Kalia move. "Crazy family you've got," he muttered. Equipped to cut the edge. The Stoneborn led them into the dark, the warship's roar fading behind. Kalia clutched the shard, Torin's weight a promise she'd keep. This alliance was fragile, stone, sky, and grit. But it was all they had. The tunnel twisted upward, its walls trembling under the weight of the warship's assault. Kalia hauled Torin along, his frail frame a heavy burden against her side. His white hair clung to his sweat-slicked face, his breath's shallow gasps that rasped in the damp air. The Kalium shard glowed in her hand, its green light flickering, weaker now, as if it felt the strain too. Elias flanked them, his pistol's blue glow cutting through the dark, his boots kicking up clouds of red dust. The Stoneborn leader glided ahead, its glowing form a beacon, its robes whispering against the stone. Above, the cavern roared, a guttural bellow of collapsing steel and searing beams. A sharp crack split the air, and the tunnel shuddered violently. Kalia stumbled, catching Torin as a chunk of ceiling crashed down, spraying gravel across her back. The dust stung her eyes, bitter and thick. "Keep going," Elias shouted, his voice rough over the chaos. He fired a plasma bolt upward, shattering a falling slab into sparks. The Stoneborn turned, its green eyes blazing. "The core fights," it rasped. "The signal grows." Kalia's heart sank, the accords waking it. The tunnel opened into Deu, a shallow chamber, its walls veined with pulsing Kalium. Through a jagged rift above, the warship loomed, black and sleek, its turrets raining red fire on the gorge. Varkas darted across the sand below, a lone white figure against the onslaught. His skiff lay in ruins, smoking in the distance, but he moved fast, drawing the beams away. Kalia's chest tightened. He's keeping his word. Torin coughed, a wet hack that jolted her back. She knelt, easing him against a wall, his shard dimming in his limp hand. "Torin, stay with me," she said, voice steady but tight. His eyes fluttered, hazy with pain. "It's loud," he whispered, fingers twitching toward the core's hum, still echoing from below. The Stoneborn loomed closer, its voice a low grind. "He stirs it too," it said, gazing at Torin. "Blood of sky and stone." Before Kalia could ask, a deafening boom rocked the chamber. The warship fired again, a beam slicing through the eye. Rift straight for the core. The ground heaved, a roar swallowing all sound. Kalia shielded Torin as the core answered, a blinding green surge that erupted upward, shattering tubes and panels in its wake. The warship recoiled, its hull sparking under the blast, but the cavern paid the price. Walls cracked wide, stone tumbling in a deadly rain. Elias grabbed Kalia's arm, pulling her back. "It's collapsing," he yelled, his scarred face grim. The stone-born darted aside, its glow flickering as rocks buried its kin. Through the chaos, Varkis sprinted toward the rift, his white armor streaked with soot. A beam lanced down, missing him by inches, scorching the sand black. He leapt, grabbing a fallen slab, and shouted up at Kalia. "Get him out!" His voice cracked, raw with urgency. Another slab fell, aimed straight for her and Torin. Varkis lunged, shoving them aside, his body taking the hit. The stones slammed him down with a sickening crunch, pinning him beneath its weight. "Varkis!" Kalia's cry tore free, sharp and unbidden. She scrambled to him, Torin dragging behind. His gray eyes met hers, dimming fast, blood trickling from his lips. "Not your tool," he gasped, a faint smirk breaking through the pain. "Mine." His hand reached for hers, trembling, then fell still. The shard in her grip flared once, then dulled, as if mourning. The cavern buckled, a final groan ripping through it. Elias yanked her up, his grip iron. "He's gone," he said, voice hard but soft. "We're not." He pulled Torin's arm over his shoulder, half carrying him toward a narrow exit. Kalia followed, tears cutting through the dust on her face. The warship retreated, its engines a fading growl, but the core's surge kept rising. Green light flooding the gorge, cracking the red sky. They burst into open air, the chamber collapsing behind with a thunderous crash. Kalia sank to her knees. Torin beside her, his breaths faint but alive. Elias stood guard, pistol humming, his gaze on the horizon. Varkis was gone. His choice, his sacrifice. The core's hum faded, a promise spent, but the warship's shadow lingered in her mind. The accord wasn't done. She clutched the shard, its glow steady now. For Torin, she'd fight on. The gorge lay in ruins, a jagged scar under a sky no longer red. Kalia knelt on the cracked sand. Torin slumped beside her, his white hair glowing faintly in the dim light. The Kalium shard rested in her lap, its green pulse steady but soft, like a heartbeat slowing after a fight. The air smelled of scorched stone and ozone, the bitter dust settling in her throat. Elias stood a few paces off, his pistol still humming, his scarred face turned to the horizon. Above, the crimson shroud cracked open, green tendrils of Kalium. Mist spiraled upward, dissolving the haze into a pale, unfamiliar blue. Kalia's hands shook as she brushed Torin's cheek. His breaths came easier now, shallow but even, the shard's glow seeping into him. He's alive. The thought anchored her, a lifeline through the grief clawing her chest. Varkis's last smirk flashed in her mind. Broken, human, gone. She swallowed hard, the weight of his sacrifice sinking deep. The core's hum had faded, but its final surge lingered, a low vibration in the ground, a whisper of change. Elias crouched beside her, his voice low. "Sky's clearing," he said, nodding upward. "That's Kalium, purifying the dust. Never thought I'd see it." His tone carried a quiet awe, his eyes tracing the blue patches breaking through. Kalia looked up, the sight alien after a lifetime of red. "It's beautiful." She pressed the shard to her chest, feeling its pull shift, stronger, deeper, like it was part of her now. Her flint stayed still in her pocket, useless. "I can't carve anymore." The realization stung, a piece of her mother lost. But the shard's hum filled the void. Torin stirred, his eyes fluttering open, green and clear. "Kalia?" His voice was a cracked whisper, but alive. She smiled, tears cutting through the grime on her face. "Right here," she said, squeezing his hand. He lifted his own shard, its light dim but steady. "It showed me," he murmured. "The core. It's us." His words hung heavy, a truth she felt in her bones. Sky and stone. The Stoneborn's prophecy, Varkis's blood, hers and Tauren's, tied to this power. A faint rumble rolled through the gorge, the ground trembling under the core's last echo. Green mist rose from the cracks, swirling into the air, cleansing it breath by breath. Elias stood, holstering his pistol. "That warship's gone, but they'll be back," he said. His tone grim but steady. "A core doesn't quit." He pulled a comm from his belt, its screen flickering to life. "Sent a signal to Earth's colonies. Help's coming, if they make it." Kalia nodded, her resolve hardening. "We'll be ready," she said, voice firm. She helped Tauren sit up, his weight lighter now, his shard pulsing in sync with hers. The mist thickened, a green veil that shimmered like hope. She closed her eyes, letting it wash over her. The Kalium sang in her blood, a connection she couldn't carve but could feel, deeper than stone, stronger than sky. "We're more than their tools." Varkis's last words echoed, a gift she'd claim. Elias grinned, a crooked twist of his lips. "You two are a damn handful," he said, a spark of humor cutting through the weight. "Guess I'm stuck with you now." Kalia smirked back, the tension easing just a fraction. "You'll live," she quipped, her voice steadying. Tauren chuckled weakly, a sound like light breaking through. The mist swirled higher, the blue sky spreading wide. A rebirth, fragile but real. Footsteps crunched behind them. The Stoneborn leader emerged from the shadows, its glow dimmed, its form battered, but unbroken. "The core sleeps," it rasped. Voice a faint grind. "You held it, sky and stone." Its eyes met Kalia's, a flicker of something like respect. "They will test you again." It turned, fading into the mist, leaving silence in its wake. Kalia stood, pulling Tauren up with her. The shard warmed her hand, its hum a quiet promise. She looked at Elias, then the sky. Blue. Vast. Theirs. Varkis had given them this chance, and she'd make it count. The Accord loomed, a shadow on the horizon, but for now they breathed free. She leaned into Elias, his arm steady against hers, and kissed him. Brief, fierce, human. The gorge stretched before them, reborn in light. And they'd face what came next together. The gorge stretched wide under the newborn sky, its blue expanse a stark mirror to the red sands below. Kalia stood at the edge, the Kalium shard warm in her hand, its green glow a steady pulse against her skin. Tauren leaned against her, his frail form steadier now, his white hair catching the faint breeze that carried the scent of clean air. Sharp, alive, free of dust. Elias paced nearby, his scarred face turned upward, his calm flickering with static. As he checked for Earth's reply, the ground hummed faintly, a remnant of the core's surge, its power spent, but not silent. Kalia's boots crunched on the sand, the sound crisp in the stillness. The green mist had settled, leaving the gorge bathed in a soft haze that shimmered like glass. She looked at Tauren, his green eyes brighter, his shard resting in his lap. "You feel it too," she said, voice soft but sure. He nodded, a weak smile breaking through. "It's quiet now," he murmured, "but it's still there." The Kalium in their hands pulsed in sync, a bond forged in blood and stone. Elias stopped pacing, his comm beeping sharply. "Signals through," he said, his tone lifting with relief. "Earth ships are coming. Slow, but they'll make it." He grinned, a crooked flash of teeth. "Guess your rock trick saved more than just us." Kalia smirked back, the weight on her chest easing a fraction. "Varkis gave us this. His last act, drawing the warship's fire, buying them time. Burned, in her memory, a debt she'd carry." A low rumble stirred the air, not from below but above. She squinted, shielding her eyes, as a sleek shape broke through the blue. A ship, its hull patched and worn, Earth's sigil faint on its side. It descended slowly, engines whining, kicking up sand in a gritty swirl. Kalia's heart leapt. "Helps. Here." The hatch hissed open, and figures emerged, ragged, weary, but human. A woman in a patched jumpsuit stepped forward, her voice rough with hope. "We got your signal," she called. "Earth's dying. You've got air?" Elias nodded. "Stepping up. More than that," he said, gesturing to the gorge. "Kalium's cleaned it. You're safe here. For now." The woman's eyes widened, a spark of life breaking through her exhaustion. Kalia watched, the shards hum steadying her. "We did this." The Underkin would breathe free, and Earth's lost had a chance. She squeezed Torin's shoulder, his warmth a quiet victory. But the sky darkened at the edge, a shadow creeping in. Another ship loomed, black, sleek, Accord-branded, its engines a menacing growl. Kalia's grip tightened on the shard, her pulse spiking. "They're back." Elias cursed under his breath, pistol snapping up. "Told you they don't quit," he muttered, his grin gone. The Earthship's crew tensed, hands reaching for scavenged weapons, fear rippling through them. Kalia stepped forward, Torin at her side, his shard flaring faintly. "We're not running," she said, voice hard as stone. She raised the shard, its light cutting through the haze, a beacon, a challenge. The Accord ship hovered, silent, its intent a weight pressing down. Torin straightened, his frail frame defiant. "They can't take it," he rasped, his shard pulsing brighter. The hum stirred beneath them, a whisper of the core's power, ready if they called. Elias moved beside her, his shoulder brushing hers, a steady, human anchor. "Got your back," he said, his tone low but firm. The Earthwoman joined them, her voice trembling but resolute. "We'll fight too, for this." Her crew nodded, ragged but unbroken, a spark of HFY defiance lighting their eyes. Kalia's lips curved, a fierce smile. "We're more than their tools." Varkis's words echoed, a truth they'd prove. The oath rose in her mind, unbidden. "Stone hears. Stone keeps." She whispered it, a vow to the air, to Torin, to the people standing with her. The shard flared, its green light washing over them, a new dawn forged in grit and will. The Accord ship loomed closer, its shadow cold. But they stood tall, sky, stone, and heart. The fight was coming, and they'd meet it head on.